The Macabre World Podcast is brought to you by Darker Art Studio, home of real human bone jewelry. Stock and custom pieces are available, so visit us on the web at www.darkerartstudio.com and show them your darker art side. Macabre World, a podcast from Darker Art Studio, where we explore the dark, strange, and unusual from this world and beyond. Hello and welcome to the Macabre World Podcast. I'm your host, Rocky Digati, and today, joining me in studio for the very first time, by the way, that we've had a guest actually in the studio today, is Taryn Kerper from Paranormal Brew. Taryn, how are you?
Good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
And thanks for being here. Taryn and I are here in South Jersey recording this for you. Taryn has a show called Paranormal Brew. She's a paranormal investigator. She has written and broadcasted much on the subject, and we're just thrilled to have you here.
Thank you.
So, one of the things I love to ask folks, especially other ladies, is when we were all kids, you know, how did you get into this? Have you always been into this?
I've always had an interest in scary stuff, if you will. When I was little, I was afraid of. I would watch the movies, Exorcist, all that. When I was little, I'd watch them with my grandfather, and I'm told that I would laugh and stuff while watching these movies. I don't remember that. And then as I get older, you know, I'm living in Clementon with my mom, and I'm in a house, you know, that I was like, we were experiencing stuff, you know, but it wasn't something that stuck with me. You know, I kind of would experience stuff and I go, what the heck was that? But it wasn't anything that made me want to continue to search it. And like, there was a period of my life where I was out of that house and nothing paranormal was really around me, and I had forgotten stuff that had happened.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
It wasn't until I started to get back into it was where I started to remember, like, oh shit, that happened. Oh, can I curse?
You can curse.
Okay, thanks.
This is Jersey. you got this.
But, you know, and then I started to remember that kind of stuff. But I started watching Ghost Hunters. Well, first of all, going back, I had all the books. I had Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. You know,
right.
I was into all that stuff. You know, House.
So you were a weird kid.
Yeah, I was weird. And
well, you know, one weird kid to another. Yeah. I totally get no judgment there.
I was also really into the JFK conspiracy. I really was so into that. That's one of the things that I was kind of like really involved with. I was also another thing that I would always was into was John Gotti. That was another thing. But the JFK
not
thing,
to be confused with John Digati, who was my
Gaddy.
uncle. Yeah. When I first heard his name on the radio, I only like heard it in passing.
Yeah.
When it was first breaking into the news, you know, when he was a thing, and I kept thinking they were saying John Digati.
Yeah.
Of course, most folks at mine, that's my last name.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are they talking about Uncle John? What's going on? Who?
Yeah.
But I mean, it is a fascinating story. Is. There's a lot there.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, what was interesting to me with John Gotti, which I know is like people are like, how's that fit in? But the thing is why did so many people love this man? Right? He was a criminal, to be honest. I mean, like when you think about it,
I'm not going to disagree. There is a cachet to it that is fascinating,
and people loved him.
The Teflon
famous
man.
People. Like, they would go to his court hearings, and he'd have, like, huge parties afterwards, and people were like, woo! You know, like, he's the best. I mean, I'll be honest with you, all the stuff that I researched and watched and listened and read and stuff, like, I literally had a crush on him. So, I get it, you know? But
right.
At the end of the day, you're like, he murdered people. Like, you know?
I mean, coming from a state that has a mafia presence, the corruption and that in Rhode Island is well documented and written about in several... Sure. Books and everything, you know, and it's not. I mean, we're the Northeast states. There's a handful of these states that kind of get famous in and outside of the media for a reason, because it does happen,
right?
You know, and the thing that got me is like, you know, when people would be like, "Oh, you're Sicilian? Is your dad in the mafia?" No, he's not a criminal, but thanks for asking.
Yeah.
You know, and that there is this. It's glamorized.
Yeah, for sure.
Violent and I think, you know, nefarious acts.
Yeah.
That, you know, because it looks cool when Tony Soprano does it.
Oh, for sure. I had a crush on Tony Soprano, too, when I watched Sopranos. I think it's the whole persona, I'm in charge. He's got the money. He's in charge. He's like gets things done. I don't know.
I won't say her name
I digress.
because she doesn't talk to me anymore, but I had a friend that had a crush on Chris Christie for that reason.
Eek.
Well, different strokes. I'm just saying.
Ugh.
I think that the powerful male is for some that alpha male, or what appears to be an alpha male. We could argue what is and isn't, but you know what I mean. But the guy in charge, men of power. That power is an aphrodisiac.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm half Italian, so I think that kind of plays into the whole Italian side of that.
It does. I mean, and you grow up with that kind of thing, around you.
Yeah, I mean, so I fly me to the moon tattooed on my foot because Frank Sinatra was like. I mean, short from ever seeing the man in my grandmother's house, I thought he was a family member.
That's fantastic. Yeah, because it went in this order. You had the pictures of the kids, the grandkids, the pictures of the kids, picture of the Pope, and then above it, Frank Sinatra.
Oh, yeah. There was one picture of my grandfather in that house. The rest was Frank.
Oh, yeah.
The Pope, Frank, and the crosses and this, so yeah, it was...
My grandmother was Mario Lanza.
Oh, okay. Yeah. We were Carvellis. And Pisani's.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. But, I digress. Sorry about that.
No, that's what makes it interesting.
Be
yourself.
But that's the thing. That type of thing where it started. And then, as I get into this, doing Paranormal Brew and everything like that. And, I mean, originally I just had people on that were just ghosty type.
Right.
I didn't expand out. And then I started to expand out. And then, then it was I started to read up on people that became obsessed with serial killers, stuff like that. To me,
there are both scholars, collectors.
I feel like everything in the paranormal is such a huge umbrella, right? I mean, I think even psychological stuff can kind of fall into that because paranormal to me is not normal, one,
right?
Or something that is you can't understand it, you want to understand it, you want to learn about how I feel like they all kind of intertwine somewhere. Not saying black and white, paranormal serial killers, but it's a psychological thing. And
there's a Venn diagram where there's crossover, absolutely.
Yeah, and there's parapsychologists in our field. There's parapsychologists that study telekinesis and study all this mind stuff. You know what I mean? So it kind of, all intertwines.
I've always thought that all fell under there. And then that stuff like psyops that you see, like the men who stare at goats, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Men in Black, UFOs, the cryptids. I mean, it's all...
A great big beautiful bucket of weird?
All under the same umbrella. It's all paranormal to me. So anyway, so I totally went off on a tangent, see?
I think we need t-shirts, by the way, that say great big beautiful bucket of weird.
Let's do it. Okay. 2004, Ghost Hunter starts, and I'm sure you hear this a lot because it's a lot of people's starting point where they started watching Ghost Hunters, and I thought it was the coolest show. I also watched Unsolved Mysteries with Robert Stack. I was in love with Robert Stack. Loved Unsolved Mysteries. Twin Peaks. All those weird shows. Loved all that stuff. And like I said, I would have the scary stories to tell in the dark, or most haunted places and this and that. And I wasn't much of a reader. I'd look at the pictures, I'd skim through the stories, but I still have some of those books. But anyways, Ghost Hunters comes out, I start watching it. Nothing to do with the paranormal. Still, not physically or actively doing it. I'd watch the shows, do whatever. But jump ahead 2007, my mom's like, go to Gettysburg with me. And I'm like, what? What's in Gettysburg? I'm like, no. I fought her for a long time. She goes, come on, I just want to go and see the reenactments. And I was like, fine. She couldn't find anybody else to go with her. And I would say that to her. I'm like, why do you think nobody else is going?
Right, nobody's into this.
Yeah. So grudgingly, I go to Gettysburg in 2007. Learned that Gettysburg is literally seeping in my veins and my soul and my spirit. It
was one of those places when you got there, you were home.
I was home.
I've had that happen.
I cried when I left. I didn't want to leave.
That's my first trip to New Orleans. You just explained to me. You're not going to lose me to New Orleans someday. Khalil, I'm coming.
At Gettysburg, and I was like, holy shit, this is my place. I just felt so free, but also I felt so like myself. It was the strangest thing. I fell in love with it instantly. So I was like, okay, this isn't bad. Now here goes my mom. Let's do a ghost tour. And I'm like, No. Absolutely not. I'm still afraid of it. Come on, let's just do a ghost hunt. They do these ghost hunts and tours and stuff like that. I'm like, oh my God, fine. Because then I start seeing like everybody walking around with the lanterns. And I'm like, it's going to be like campfire-y stuff, you know? I'm like, fine, whatever.
Sure, you know. And especially when you were talking at a very storied location. Sure. Where you've heard, you know, you can't really go in there too unbiased because, you know, historically we're aware of it. You know, and as well, and so like going to Salem in Massachusetts on a ghost tour. I mean, especially in my case, I grew up near that area. You know, you hear the stories over and over and over, so you just kind of figure, like you said, campfire entertainment, that kind of thing.
And my mom was the type of person. She was the opposite of me. She wanted to have an experience. She wanted to experience a ghost. She was like hoping, right? And I'm like, you're nuts, right? So. I say yeah. So this ghost tour hunt, because I don't think either of us really knew what we were signing up for.
Right.
Wound up being like an actual investigation with one of the local groups there.
Oh, wonderful.
Not for me.
Uh-oh.
Because I was like,
okay.
What did you get me into? You know, I didn't want nothing to do with it, right? So we're back at this place called the Creek Bed in Gettysburg. It's behind Steinwire Ave. For anybody that's familiar with Gettysburg. And I'm standing there. Now, mind you, I know nothing. All I know is what Ghost Hunters does on TV.
Right.
You know, or stories, you know, that you read in the books and stuff. So, anyway, I'm cold on one side of me, normal temperature on the other side.
Ooh.
That has never happened to me since. And this was in 2007. Never happened to me since, but it happened to me that night. And I said this, and one of the guys in the group comes over, and as he gets close, it goes away. I'm normal again. I was like, okay, no, it went away. I'm good. Right? And in my head, I'm thinking, they're going to think I'm lying. Right? Anyway, so he's like, oh, okay, walks away. It's back. I said, wait a minute, it's back. You know, because prior to going...
Cha-cha back and forth with gone here, gone,
right,
not,
every time. No, every time.
You see, when that happens to me and you're my age, it's a hot flash. But, you know, folks should know, this was 2007?
2007, so that was how many years ago?
And you're far too young for any of that, so... But it's
true, though. In 2007, yes. Now,
that's the
not.
First thing. But that's the first thing people think, and not just specifically to women, I mean, just in general, that when people feel these fluxes in temperatures and stuff like that it's just more than likely just something either situational or...
Yeah, and you know, I'm kind of thankful for that experience in one aspect because I remember before we went, you know, they were like, if you guys hear anything, feel anything, see anything, whatever, just shout it out. It's better to just say it. And at first you're like a little, you know, shy to do stuff like that. But that was such a...
It made a blurter out of you.
Yes, it was such an odd feeling. So, do you have a cat?
No.
Did you just hear that?
No. I'll listen to it in the headphones later.
Did you have a cat? Oh, maybe that's what it was. What was that? Your chair?
Oh, it might have been my chair, yes.
Woo! I heard a...
It is. It's the chair.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
All right. So, now I forget where I was going.
Well, you know, I can't follow your observation skills.
Yeah, well, I have, that's one of the things is my ears. My ears, I get told I have bionic ears because everybody that's investigated with me has experienced me hearing something, like I've heard my name, I've heard full sentences, and then we go back on the recorder and it's there. Like you hear it, you hear me say I hear it, you hear everybody go, no, we didn't say that, blah, blah, blah. So we're all listening to it and they're like, how do you hear that? And I'm like, but I also do hear if somebody's in 3 rooms over, I can hear them unzipping their zipper. Like my ears are just very sensitive.
Right. Mine used to be like that. Then I was a professional musician for too long.
Yeah.
Without earplugs.
Well, I talked to somebody recently because I have ADHD.
Oh, just kidding.
I have ADHD really bad. And I am medicated, but not, I'm on a very low dose. I'm on the lowest dose, so I don't want to go any higher than that. But I learned with talking with this, Frank Sinelli, his name is Dr. Spector. He's a holistic doctor. And he said, you know, one of the symptoms of ADHD is me and you could be talking in a crowded room full of people, and me and you are right this close to each other. I don't hear us. I hear everybody else, and that is part of ADHD where which is why people say you don't pay attention.
So it's like an omni-stimulus.
Right.
Got it.
So I don't think that my hearing is fully on a spiritual reason, or I'm hearing them because we call it clairaudient in this field, but I don't think it's spirit given, if you will, for lack of better description.
It's how you drive. It's the way you're built.
Exactly.
You're just a better amplifier than the rest of us.
And I think the more that I've investigated, the more that's kind of opening up a little bit, but I don't think that's where it comes from.
Well, there's, when you talk to people who are musicians and people who are sound engineers, there's a way to hear, and there's a certain kind of way you process it that does lend itself.
Yeah.
To like people who have to be able to have what I call isolate hearing, where they can isolate a track. You can hear a whole orchestra, then one guy can hear the oboe.
Right.
Not everybody can do that.
Right. Yeah.
And it is an executive function kind of process, like what you're talking about. So that makes perfect sense. But to have that work, and then you're trying to open up your third eye, if you will, and and that gets that going.
Which is why I don't want to be medicated, because I fear that so the medication is supposed to dim down a lot of the symptoms of ADHD, and that's one thing I don't want to lose. And
I think it's you don't want to lose your effervescent personality. You don't want to lose.
Right.
You want to be yourself. You want to stay true to you. So you had this hot cold. I mean, sensation. Yeah. But my question is that the only experience you had on that particular day?
No. So this isn't over. So this happened.
It's not over.
No, this happened probably 6 times. Every time people would get near me, and it didn't have to just necessarily, because then they started testing, like, is it just men? Is it just women? So they were like testing it, and they had thermometers. They had all these like gadgets that they were like, I felt like a science project, which was fine. I was like, okay. The odd thing, I look back on it, I wasn't scared. I had always worked myself up, which is why I avoided the paranormal, because I was so afraid of it. I was afraid of the idea. I was afraid of, you see the movies, you see what you see on TV, what you read, and you get this like dramatization in your head.
It's all been like, blown up by the media.
Right. Yeah. And here I am having this experience that went on for 20 minutes, and the whole thing, and we got an EVP out of it.
Oh, wow.
And because at one point the girl's like, do you like her? She just starts like, then she's like, okay, maybe we're talking. She starts to do an EVP session because this is happening. And we listen back on the recorder, and it says, no, love her.
Aww.
And I was like...
Well, I totally get that.
I was like, what the...
So you have... do you post your evidence on your social media?
So I used to have a page called Paranormal Brew EVPs. So I haven't... I do want to start doing that, because ever since I've been on social media, my focus has always been my show.
Right.
So it hasn't really been too much of sharing stuff, which I feel like, there are some things on TikTok where I've shared these short little clips of EVPs.
Folks, if they want to find you, tell us where they can find each of your pages and where they can catch Paranormal Brew, so that we can say it at least a few times. So
thank you. I appreciate that. So Paranormal Brew is just that. It's Paranormal Brew. And I am on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Did I say that? Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm pretty much, I know I'm not in, I don't make money off of this at all, but I love my show. It's a weekly show.
I love your show too.
Wednesdays, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, and it's live on YouTube and Facebook. Once in a while, I go live on TikTok if I can, while I'm doing my show.
And you've had some pretty heavy hitters on your show.
For sure. Jason Hawes. I've had almost
that guy.
I've had almost.
We'll get to that in a minute, Jay. If you're listening, we'll get to that in a minute. Stop rolling your eyes. You know what's coming.
I totally love him.
I know we all do.
But I've had almost the entire cast of Ghost Hunters on. I've had Dalen Spratt from Ghost Brothers.
They're so funny.
Yeah. Dave Schrader, Jeff Belanger, and I've had a lot of interesting people that aren't mainstream that I feel like they should be, because they are so pivotal and so fantastic for this field of what they do. Justin Bamforth, he researches Men in Black, UFOs. Sure. He's an author. I mean, he's amazing. There's so many people that I've had on that I absolutely love. And it's always a good conversation because it's off the cuff. It's not scripted, much like this, you know.
Right. Well, I think candid is more believable.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's easier to just be frank with your audience that way, rather than it's too canned. For folks that may be laughing, if they're fans of the show, they know, I'm from Rhode Island, and when I first got interested in the paranormal myself and joined a group, I joined this little group that met in the Starbucks out in Warwick. And at the time, I had to drive like 40 minutes to get to Warwick from where I lived, because I lived on the East Bay. That's West Bay for all you Rhode Islanders. And it was just like a couple of guys and just a handful of people. And they were all just real nice. And we started doing investigations. And I was really interested in the historical research, like of the different locales and everything. And I was getting ready to move. And I do recall hearing, as I was getting ready to move south, that the group was going to have some interest with a TV show. And I said to myself, and I've actually said this to his face, I said to myself, I hope that's true. Because, I mean, it'd be really cool and all. But I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I always said, I just hope that they're not. I thought he was kidding. Mm-hmm. So that's how long I've known Jay.
Right.
This was going back to let's see, it came out in 2004. Mm-hmm. This is going back to the early 2000s. So yeah. I've been acquainted with him over 20 years.
Yeah.
And when I got a chance to run into him at the Penhurst Paracon, I don't get to see him very often.
Right.
And it was when I met you.
Yes.
And that's how we actually, so we owe Jay a big thank you.
And we actually, we clicked, you and Jazz, right? The three of us. I was like, man.
That's right, my cohort Jasmine.
Yeah. I was like, man, these are my kind of people.
Yeah, we have our moments. But, and it's kind of fun. And I actually when I told that Jay that, I said, I thought you were kidding. He goes, I never kid. And he absolutely does. But it couldn't have happened to a greater group of people.
Yeah,
and I'm absolutely thrilled. But I will tell you, and knowing him as long, and Steve I think the funniest thing is that they really set a benchmark. I think.
Oh, absolutely. For
people getting interested in and investigating the paranormal,
absolutely.
And that is I think a wonderful thing, because for the longest time this was just kind of like under the radar. And I think that the original ghost hunters, right up through what everything is done now, and Jay, and all the folks that were, been along the lines, Carl and Grant and all those guys, they really made a mark that was indelible. So indelible that when you go to a paranormal convention, there are hundreds of men dressed like 2004 vintage Jay.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, he's all, sorry, Jay, you look great, you're styled up, awesome. But I'm looking around and going, that's what he looked like when I knew him. Because they're all like vintage, like season 1 ghost hunter outfit alikes.
Yeah.
It's become you. Not only did you blaze into the field, you coined the uniform.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and it's great. So there's that really was a big start, and I think a lot of people were inspired by the show, which I think is fantastic, and they do a great job with it.
Absolutely.
And so after the whole Gettysburg ghosty stuff, did you say, I gotta start doing this?
So I was like, wow, that wasn't that bad. That really, that wasn't as bad as what I thought it was.
So instead of this is amazing, you were like, well, I got through that.
Yeah, no, I was like, I wasn't as scared, and I'm grateful for that experience, only because I've done private houses. I do private houses. So for me, when people are genuinely scared, when they're coming to us, coming to me because they want help, because you run into all private cases are a whole nother animal.
That is a different bag of cats. Yeah.
It really is, and I mean, you got to weed out the people that just are looking to just have fun. Like, I mean, I've had people like, oh, I invited some friends over and we're gonna have beers, and I'm like, no, we don't do that during an investigation. This isn't, this isn't a show.
Not a party.
Like that. If you want to have a party, we can talk about something different. But I'm not gonna come in here and do an investigation for that. And then you have the people that are generally scared,
right?
And from that, I took, we're human. It's human nature to be afraid of the unknown.
Oh, I agree.
If we didn't know what ants were and one went crawling across here right now, we'd be like, what the fuck is that? We'd be freaking out.
Right. Yeah.
So, and I tell that to people, and the ones that are afraid, I'm like, it's just, so we just need to talk, and let me educate you, and let me explain things to you as best as I know how to. If it's something that's out of my realm of, and I don't feel comfortable with, obviously I would say, okay, you need to go see a doctor, or you need to talk to somebody that...
Call a priest.
Yeah, I can refer you to somebody else that handles this kind of stuff, but I don't know where I was going with that. But, I was saying because of the, having that experience and feeling like, wow, like I built myself up to this whole thing. Like I thought it was going to be this like horrific experience. And I didn't even have time to be afraid. Like, because everything happened so, I know it was 20 minutes, but everything was happening so fast and like so strange that you're trying to figure out what's happening. Your logical brain tries to figure out what's happening before it's over with. And when it's over with, that's when you start to think like, okay, wait a minute. That was strange. Well, what's going on? I mean, it happens to me all the time. To this day, I'll be in a location and I'll be like, what is that? Is that a shadow? Is that a bird? What is that? Like, what? And before you know it, it's like, okay, that couldn't have been a person. It could have been a bird. And then you realize, I just had an experience.
Right. Well, I think people have experiences all the time and don't realize. Sure. I think, even there's a line in between the hyper observant, the ones I say that see aardvarks around every corner, and the oblivious. And you want to be, I guess what I want to say is, you want to be an observant quasi-skeptic.
Yeah, you want to be in the middle.
You want to be in the middle. You really want to take that middle of the road. I think that makes for a better investigation. Were you ever truly terrified? Once you start peeking behind the curtain, I think that takes a lot of the fear out of it. When you get to understand something a little bit, or at least understand how other people investigate it, it loses some of that object terror. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, and when you were to your point on, people being startled versus scared. I mean, I always say to folks, imagine if you're in a room with somebody, they can't see you, they can't hear you, and they don't know you're there, and you have to get their attention. No matter what you do to them, you're gonna startle them.
Yeah.
Because they have no idea it's coming.
Yeah.
And I think that's, I'm not suggesting that all cases, but a bulk of experiences that are quote unquote scary are really more startling.
Right.
It's because some kind of impetus came out of nowhere, and it took you by surprise.
Yeah.
Because most of the stuff that I have observed myself personally is non-threatening.
Right. Oh, I've never.
Yeah.
I haven't. There was at Hinsdale.
Which leads me to,
yeah.
Were you ever scared to death?
Yes.
Oh, let's hear.
Hinsdale House last year.
Hinsdale House. Where now? I'm a little ignorant. Where's his?
So Hinsdale is in Hinsdale, New York. So it's near It's probably about 45 minutes to an hour from Niagara Falls.
So it's talking like the Buffalo area.
Yeah. So it's up there. And we were outside now because claims are, for a long time I've avoided going there because everybody that I know that has gone there, kind of like, not that anything evil or demonic.
So what's the claim to fame?
It was just like kind of like everybody was like, well, outside is better than inside, which is crazy to me because I'm afraid of the woods. But so I'm like, yeah,
you're pretty much a scaredy cat for a paranormal guy. I just gotta say.
Yeah, I am afraid of the woods. I'm afraid of wrong turn people.
Wrong turn people, yeah.
I'm afraid of that whole thing. And Blair Witch, I don't care if it's fake. It scared the shit out of me because that scares me to be lost in the woods somewhere where I don't know where I'm at. So I am afraid of the woods. But in a if I'm in a house or a cabin or something, I'm a little easier. But anyway,
I get real relaxed in a cabin. Just saying.
Yeah.
Throw in a hot tub and we're golden.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I can do that. But
I can relax.
Being open in woods, it just...
It's vast.
Yeah.
Because it seems like
very overwhelming.
void.
Yeah. It's just like the ocean. Like if you go to
Also a void, it's vast.
Where it's so deep, it's very intimidating.
It's paranormal agoraphobic. The big wide open.
Oh, it's
well, no, I'm growing up on the ocean and growing up in Rhode Island, and then when I went out west to see Arizona, I had never seen the desert before. I was 17, and I remember thinking, wow, this is just like the ocean because it's vast. It's full of stuff that if you're not smart can hurt you.
Yeah.
You have to respect it.
Yeah, for sure.
Just like same thing with the ocean. It's vast and it's full of stuff that if you're not smart can hurt you, but otherwise, and both are inexplicably beautiful.
Well, and it's the same thing with space, right? I
frontier.
Love space. I love the night. I love nighttime. I love meteor showers, solar eclipses.
Did you catch that moon last night, by the way?
Did you see it tonight?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
This is pre-recorded. This is going to be playing on December 8th, but it is November 28th, so we're right on that nice chunky moon tonight.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. But I would never go up in space. I'm obsessed with space. I love all the.
It takes me 4 Benadryl and 3 tiny wine to get to goddamn Florida in 3 hours. I'm gonna go into space.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, you think about like the
Are
ocean.
you kidding?
Ocean.
Are you pots?
Space. Like, it's so massive, and you're just like one wrong move, dude. It's over. Like,
First of all, I feel that way about Roosevelt driving Philly. Second of all, one wrong move, man, you're done. You're done.
Yeah, there's no way.
And I don't much care to fly, and it's well noted amongst my friends. I do it anyway because I got to get from point A to point B.
Yeah.
So yeah, the fact, like I said, I'm serious. I can't cope with like a 3-hour flight to Florida without taking Benadryl and a couple of glasses, a couple of belts. And you want me to go into space? Oh no, thank you.
Benadryl, I'm Xanax. I'm like, give me some Xanax and give me a vodka.
Well, you've gone pro. That's what that is.
That's flying. Like,
you went pro.
We're going.
I'm still in the puppy league.
I'm going on a cruise in May, and it's a Mediterranean cruise. And for the longest time, my boyfriend was trying to hide from me how long the flight is.
And you're flying from where to where? Philadelphia?
Philly to Barcelona.
Well, that's not 7 hours.
That's bad.
I'm not saying it's good, but I mean, it's look. I just talked to, and Dan, if you're listening, this one goes out to you, somebody who spent 13 and a half hours on a plane to go
You'd have to
from the West Coast
out
to Korea. And I don't know. And this guy does this like every couple of weeks. I don't know how in the hell he does it for work, you know. And so I have friends that have taken like, you know, that take ridiculous amounts of flights. This is the best part. Wait, listen.
Tell me when.
There is no when. It's wine.
Okay.
So yeah, we invite you to you know, if you're able to raise your glass as well, and but yeah, you know, I don't know how people do it. So yeah, it is vast. I mean, it's terrifying that you know, it's just too much open.
It really is.
The ocean is huge. The woods are huge and enveloping.
Which is strange to me. An unpopular decision. I apologize to anybody. No disrespect, and I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. In my stance at this moment. You know, as much as I study the night sky, I've never seen a UFO, and I can't believe in the cryptids, you know, because I need to experience it. And I'm not saying it doesn't exist, and I'm not saying it's not possible. It's just that I am not one of those people that are like, yes, I believe, you know.
I got to tell you, I don't think cryptids are that weird.
I don't think they're weird.
Well, first of all, think of all of the people that you run into on a daily basis. You know, we all see all kinds of people. Of course, I work in the medical field, so sometimes, and I used to work in EMS, so sometimes I saw some pretty interesting selections of people. You know, we have all sorts of birth defects. We have all sorts of genetic aberrations just amongst people. And if you look at all the species of everything else that inhabits the earth, I think the idea of cryptids isn't so much paranormal as abnormal.
Right.
I think that's closer to abnormal because I think anything can happen. Is it possible that some sort of creature, like I always talk about Bigfoot. Mm-hmm. I always say Bigfoot is like the tall guy that lost the bet and has to buy beer and put on the suit. You know, and everybody's, all right, it's Bill's turn.
Yeah.
We're going to do that. You know, it's his turn this week. He lost at poker. And then, you know, he's got to go out there going, you know, and it's just basically 8 drunk guys in Washington State that do this, that have this running joke. But, and that's also no disrespect because I tease and I goof on that. But the idea that there is a link and a creature that is somewhere, say, in between, isn't that crazy to me? I mean, I personally ascribe to evolution, so you know you can have a blip.
I agree. I honestly,
that's not nutty. It doesn't. It's not like whether they exist. It's like let's get a good look.
Right.
And that seems hard.
Even though I'm not a believer. On the flip side of that, like so, my brain, like, there's like 3 parts of my brain. I believe, you know, or I don't believe. I'm a skeptic, and then there's possibility, right? So I think about all that stuff, and I'm like, all right, let's talk about the Jersey Devil. I think that the Jersey Devil, there's a story behind that, right?
The Leeds family.
So I think about how long it took us to get to the point where, and I apologize if I'm using the wrong verbiage because I'm not up with the current politically correct thing for this, but a mentally challenged child who has birth defects.
Sure.
Okay, which is what supposedly the Leeds child was born.
Correct.
But to get to the point where those children were accepted in society, you know,
absolutely.
How long was that? I mean, that was what, in the 1600s? There was no acceptance of that. So for me, I think the whole Jersey Devil thing comes from a child that was born with defects and a child that was born that they kept locked away in the basement because back then that was okay. There was nothing wrong with that. That's what people did back then.
Well, they didn't know how to accept or deal with differently abled people.
Right. Everything was very it was very vanity at the same time, even though there wasn't.
And anything they didn't understand was the devil.
Right. So I think that this woman kept her child locked in. I think myth, legend grew and grew and grew. It's just like how you can sit 25 people in a row. You whisper something in somebody's ear here, and by the time it gets here, it's a totally different story.
Oh, yeah, the telephone game. Remember the telephone game? We used to play it as kids.
Yeah.
You could get a bunch of kids in a circle and do that, yeah.
So I think that the Jersey Devil thing can be explained, in my opinion. I think that's where I think it's a legend. The Bigfoots, where do they come from? All the dogmen and the this and the that, and
well, I think hybrids are possible.
Yeah, I mean anything is possible, right? But I think what if because all I do is ghost hunt, for lack of a better description, ghost hunt.
Right.
What if I focused only on Bigfoot?
Sure.
Would I start to experience Bigfoot stuff? I'm only putting myself to... Now, I have gone and hunted Bigfoot one time, and I did have some strange things happen.
Is he around here?
Princeton.
Bigfoot's in Princeton?
So, apparently. I mean,
Hold on, wait. I have to process that.
Go ahead.
Bigfoot is in Princeton.
This was...
Wow.
See, this was in 2000.
I didn't see Princeton coming, I got to tell you. I wasn't
so apparently
prepared for Princeton.
Well, me either. I mean,
tell me the Pine Barrens, I get that.
Yeah, no.
But Princeton was a surprise.
There was and I'm not going to remember 100% all the details, but it was either a park or some type of a recreational area.
Right, like a state park or something.
Yeah, that there was a guy that was a groundskeeper, security or something like that. When I was with South Jersey Ghost Research, they owned the guy that ran that owned Ghost Hunter Store. We were all in there, and this guy walks in with a picture and said, "This was taken this morning. Somebody was running, and they looked up, and he goes, the only thing that's weird to me with this picture." And when you looked at it, it was like that typical like grainy.
How is
thing?
it we have GPS systems that can Google Earth can get you zoomed into somebody's car. But still, at this stage of the game, we don't have a nice hardline picture, digital picture of Bigfoot. Yeah. Everything still looks like it's from 1973.
I know, it's crazy. And and here it is, it's across the field, and then there's like a little bit of a hill that goes up, and there's like a walking path up around this hill like this, and then there's another, and on the other side is a dip. So the picture, and you have to take into scale, right? The scale, whatever, but the picture was from, we'll call it Bigfoot's waist up.
Okay.
The gentleman said, in order for it to be waist high at that dip where it drops on the other side, he'd have to be 11 feet tall because his head is touching the top branch of that tree. So he's like explaining this all to us.
Yeah, he's
and
taking
we're
it into scale.
I'm like, wow, okay. So literally, we all got in the car at that moment and went up there with him. And we Bigfoot hunted. And now I'm walking around. It was a totally different experience for me because, one, I'm not a believer, right? So I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm just walking around a park and whatever, So I wasn't scared. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't really looking for anything. One thing I noticed in the middle of it was like there was no sound. There was no leaves crinkling.
No other animals.
No animals jumping around. No insects. No like.
It was like a void of silence in the forest.
It was quiet, and you don't know what that sounds like until you don't hear it. If that makes sense. And we did a couple of other things, and we rolled out some other things, and we get back to the cars, and one couple had already gotten in their truck and started it up, and it was one of those go, 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 loud trucks. I always leave my recorders going till the bitter end. And I was about to get in my car, so I turned my recorder off. We're saying goodbye, and from the area we were just at, 2 football fields away, if you will, a noise I had never heard. I don't know to this day what kind of animal it was because I've never heard anything since, but it was a scream, a screech, a howl, a bark. Like, they're all, like, it sounded like everything combined.
Everybody in New England just said fish or cat. I'm telling you that right now, but I don't think I just want to let them know they don't have those in Jersey. 'Cause that's the first thing I would have thought of as well.
Yeah, no, this was so strange. And we were all like, and everybody just stopped talking. And they're like, do you have your recorder? I'm like, I just shut it off.
Oh, no.
The people in that truck, the gung, 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 they heard it. They got out. Yeah. That's how loud it was. 2 football fields away. That's how loud it was. And they got out. They go, what the fuck was that? And I'm like, I don't know. And then all of a sudden, you hear a smaller version of that. I don't know if it was further away or if it was a smaller version of whatever big thing that came out of. But we heard that. And I've never heard anything since that like that. So what was that? I don't know. I'm not going to say it was Bigfoot, but I don't know what it was. But it was definitely strange. I definitely
jest about the whole, like, the guy in the suit losing the beer bet, but it doesn't seem crazy to me that there can be a missing link, if you will, or any of that. And all of the, like when people say, well, I've not seen an alien. Absolutely not. Do I think any? Who's for me to say that we're the only ones here?
Yeah,
I sort of got to keep an open mind on all of that. And it's crazy.
I mean, one time I saw now, I've never seen anything. I've never seen anything extraterrestrial or anything like that, or but I was on vacation, so I was not in any type of
you were in chill mode.
I was in chill mode. I wasn't paranormal nothing. And it was the middle of the day, and if anybody has seen American Horror Story, if you remember the first guy in there with the black suit. So I'm standing in the kitchen with my boyfriend. We're getting ready to go to the beach. It's 12 o'clock in the afternoon.
And suddenly Zachary Quinto shows up.
And all of a sudden I see that man, the man in the black suit. Like, that's all the only thing I can compare it to. But I saw like the back half of him. Because the one of the walls was like, he was walking this way. Sorry. It was walking this way. So I was seeing just the back. I didn't get to see the front.
Right,
I saw the back. And I remember staring and going, holy shit. And it had a yellow glow around it.
Okay.
And I didn't, once it went into the living room like this, where the wall blocks it out, I didn't see it after the wall. Our dog comes, I see our dog come running out. And I didn't start to hear his nails on the floor.
Oh, gotcha.
Until he got to me. So then I was like, wow, I wasn't hearing anything the whole time I was seeing
that sound void is something I've experienced as well. I think that's a common occurrence when a paranormal event happens. There's almost like a sound vacuum.
Yeah, it was the strangest thing
that
I've
very, very
ever
unusual.
experienced.
It's very queer. It's very unusual and odd.
The whole thing. And I know what I saw. I wasn't drunk. I wasn't nothing. It was, I literally looked over and I looked at my boyfriend right away. I go, no, you didn't. Because he was talking to me, so I knew he didn't see it.
Right.
But my first reaction was like, did you see it? And the strange thing was, we were there for 3 days before this happened. The first 3 days, I was like, I feel like I'm being watched. And after that happened, it went away. That feeling totally went away. I talk with my hands.
Yeah, well, I get it. I'm half Italian, too. So, that being said, and again, I think it's also a lot of fun to bring up that we're actually live in the studio. I say live, this is pre-recorded, but we are sitting here like next to each other, like I'm poking her right now.
Yeah.
I'm just like nudging her with my elbow like a jerk. And this is unusual. This is the first time in the history of Macabre World that the guest has been in studio with me. So that being said, this is an old house. It's from 1851. And this is a very historic area. We're in an old house. And one of the things that I was curious, do you sense anything in the house?
I feel like I'm just an investigator. Do you know what I mean?
You don't get a sense of anything, because there have been reports of paranormal activity, and not from me, from my friends.
Yeah.
From people that have been here, and it's been discussed on this show. We had one fella. I have a friend of mine. Her better half will not come into the house.
Oh, I love this house.
The kitchen.
But I would love it even if it was active. I still would love it.
And it is. We have Henry. He's here, and we have a host of other little bits and bobs. But it's crazy. So you've done. a lot of investigations at this point.
Yes, so many. And when I say I'm not sensitive like that, like that happens to me, but it happens to me. I'm not. Like it's so sporadic. It's so like.
Well, it's like when I tell folks, everybody's like, "Are you a medium?" I'm like, no, technically, I'm really like an extra large, but but it's because it's not something I can say turn it on and turn it off.
Yeah,
I don't have that skill.
I don't do that. For me, I'm an investigator. I go into a place and I will, if it's a private house, and I tell everybody, don't lie to me because I'm going to open up drawers. I'm going to open up cabinets. I'm going to look under beds. I'm an investigator. I'm trying to get to a source of what is happening, and I do that in the locations. Now, granted, the historic locations, you're already in there knowing the stories behind it.
Right.
You know what's going on there, so you're not going in there to like really
reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, you're just going in there for fun. You're going in there to get
see what you can see.
Yeah, and what you can hear and stuff. And I love that stuff. Again, I am clairaudient, for lack of better. So like wherever we're at, I hear something. We hear something and it's, to me, that's what I love. EVPs by far are my favoriteest thing. I would just sit there with a recorder in complete silence for hours. Every once in a while, I'll say, "Hi, anybody hear me? Can you talk to me?"
Right. and you get a little something.
Yeah, I love it.
So now how long have you been in the field? I said that was 2004, 7.
So I started. So after 2007, after the Gettysburg thing. So I fell in love with Gettysburg. So twofold happened in Gettysburg that year.
Fell in love with the history.
Fell in love with Gettysburg.
Incredible American heritage site.
And started my journey in the paranormal. And I never thought in a million years I would be where I'm at right now.
Now, I think that's wonderful. You do an amazing job. Folks, you have to check out Paranormal Brew. It is even more fun than this podcast, I got to tell you.
Stop it.
It is. You are, because you're live, all right? Like, we're taped and everything and nice and comfy in the studio. You get out there in the trenches and you share on a lot of wonderful content with your subscribers and the folks that follow you and your followers, because you're live and you're in the thick of it. It's unedited. It's delightful stuff.
Thank you.
And you have, like I said, and in addition to that, you also have some really in-depth interviews. Some of the folks that you've had on your show, like you said, some of them are a little more keynote, and some are not. And like the Ouija board guy.
Cool, isn't he cool?
He's so cool.
Yeah. So originally so Bob Murch, if people don't know who Robert Murch is, you guys gotta look him up. He has worked with the family that first. Created the Ouija board for the Warner Brothers, which is now the War. Yes, thank you. He worked with them to help. He raised money for them to put a tombstone for the guy.
Which is in Greenmount Cemetery in Baltimore. Izzy, if you're listening, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
But yeah, so Bob Murch.
Or Loudon Park. It's either in Greenmount or Loudon Park, and my friend knows the difference of which. I don't remember.
Yeah. Which it is. I mean, I love Bob Murch. I mean, he was somebody that I saw his lecture, and when I saw his lecture, Brandon Hodge was with him, so I knew they worked together, and I knew he worked under the likes of Bob Murch, which I have a lot of respect for, because up until Bob Murch's lecture at Phenomenology in Gettysburg, I always thought that the Ouija board was taboo, right? Because I was raised that my mom,
and it was a thing of evil.
Yeah, my mom was like, I remember I brought.
We had one.
I brought one home one time. I was like, "You're not bringing that in my house." And I'm
we had one in our house, which I could never figure out because my mom's like crazy Portuguese Catholic.
I
don't know how that thing got in our house, but it was in there.
So I was always like afraid of it, right? Until I saw his lecture, and I was like, wow, I'm like, he's amazing. So yeah, so Brandon and Bob Murch were supposed to come on. Bob got sick, so Brandon still came on. And
it was a great show. I remember being.
They're fantastic.
Great
to
stuff.
me,
and folks can scroll back in Facebook and see all your old lives. And YouTube. There's some great stuff, and in YouTube, you can see all the
I
old
would
shows.
recommend, if you just want to see the shows, I recommend YouTube, because that's strictly shows.
Because the Ouija guy I learned a lot, and you know what? I go back a ways with the Ouija board, and if you think you know what you know. Learn something new, be open, and check out. That was a fantastic show. In fact, I had a Ouija board experience very, very early on that kind of shaped how I see the Ouija now. I was a kid, and I was doing the Ouija board with my middle sister. And the board immediately became active in our house, which was really, really exciting.
Right.
And it said Rocky stinks. So a skeptic with the Ouija board was born that day.
Yeah.
Because I've not had an experience that felt spiritual with the Ouija board, but I love Ouija. I love the motif. I collect them. I have some pretty cool Ouija boards downstairs and stuff. So there's a little bit of that. So that being said, you've got all this great build up here. One of the things, and I hate to pull the girl card.
Pull it.
Oh, I'm pulling it. I'm dealing it, and I am calling it a full house. I hate to pull the girl card, but there are less women in this field than I feel there should be. It's like I call it like sort of like a parastem field. It's a boys' club.
Yeah, I mean,
it is and it isn't. The guys that I know are great.
Yeah, no, the people I know and I'm friends with, I love to death.
Absolutely.
I mean, I love them.
That deserves
Yeah. Paranormal Brew.
We love you guys.
Paranormal Brew's been, this April will be 7 years I've been on. 7 years.
Congratulations. That's outstanding.
It's a long time.
It's a lot of content.
It's a lot of content.
That's a lot of content.
We originally were first just audio, which I am going to, I've been thinking about this the last couple of weeks. I think I want to start putting it on the audio side of things, not just the live video.
Oh, catalog them into like a podcast.
Yeah, like
that would be great.
iHeartRadio, stuff like that.
Sure.
So I've been,
I've
been.
You knocked that mic
I
one
know.
more time.
I'm
gonna
sorry.
get you, girl.
It's my hands. It's my hands. I talk with my hands.
You can talk with your hands.
I'm gonna sit
back
on
up
my
6 inches, girlfriend. All right. Yeesh. She's playing badminton with the microphone.
But yeah, so 7 years, and I've learned so much from just having people on and talking about the paranormal. And at one point, I did have somebody on that lied about all their credentials, lied about everything.
Not cool.
And prior to that, I never really looked into my guests because, for me, I want to experience the same thing that the listeners are experiencing.
Sure.
I want to ask the questions that I think I would want to ask if I was sitting at home watching my show. And so but after having him on now, I did take into consideration how this person came to me. One was out of nowhere, he just started messaging me on Facebook.
Oh dear.
And at the time I didn't think anything of it, but he was like giving me all these credentials and this and that and this and that, and I never looked into it, so my bad. But I did in the middle of the interview. This is intuition. You can call it whatever you want. This is why my friends always say, you are sensitive. And I'm like, no, I'm not. But in the middle of the interview at some point, I literally got sick to my stomach every time he said a certain thing. And I was like, there's something off with this dude. Right away. So I called my friend, Kenny Biddle, for anybody that knows him. He's my friend. I called him up. And I said, can you help me research this person that I had on? Something isn't sitting right. And he helped me because he has a lot of access doing what he does. He writes for Skeptical Inquirer. So he has a lot of access to databases and, public stuff that isn't really public, and found out so many bad things. I mean, felonies, fraud, all kinds of stuff. So I felt that it was that's
a bucket of toxic.
And I felt people watch my show, and I feel like I am giving people what I know to be the best knowledge, educational type of people. So people watch your show, not just
you're 100% above board, absolutely.
And you have people that sometimes will hang on, like especially if you think about the family that's at home and stuff is happening. Their kids being affected or something's happening in their home that they don't understand, and they're watching your show to get some insight, to get some advice, to get some this or that. And then here I am presenting some dude that is a total fraud. So I felt kind of responsible. Then I reached out to this guy and I said, listen, there's some stuff. And I told him straight up privately. I was like, this is what I found out. Either you come out on your own and you tell people.
Right.
I was like, or I'm going to do it.
I don't think people are used to the hard line on integrity in a lot of areas, and
that's big for me.
I commend you. Yeah, and that's huge, and that's your reputation precedes you on that.
Thank you.
Which is nothing but the highest of praise coming from here. But there are a lot of great women. Mary Jo.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the wonderful. Now, I mentioned that Taryn and I met at the paranormal convention that's at Penhurst, and that's going to be coming up again this May. I can't wait. We're going to have a good time.
I'm going to be on my cruise.
Oh, stop it with the cruise!
Okay.
You're missing Penhurst for a cruise. You loser!
I know.
You loser!
I know. I wish I could just split myself. Everybody's like, "Oh my God, you're going to be in the metaverse."
There is some wonderful women in paranormal, and I'm hoping to have some more of them on.
Yes.
So I'm going to be be watching out. Yeah, Sherry, we love you, Sherry. And so we're going to have a little bit more of that going on. But so what's next? What's your? I have two questions for you. As we're getting close to the end here, we have what's your bucket list investigation? Do you have one that's still out there? That's your white whale that you want to go. And what is next for Taryn and Paranormal Brew?
So, all right, bucket list.
Yeah.
One of these, it'll never happen. So, but I always got to throw it out there. The White House. I would love to investigate the White House.
Well, I'm not sure that can never happen. Somebody must be sure. Someone must do it.
Yeah, but I just...
I'm just going to talk to the whole Macabre World clan out there. If you know anybody, go and follow Taryn on Paranormal Brew on Facebook, Instagram, and everything. If you know of a way or anybody who's investigating the White House, hit her up.
Yeah. Oh,
yes.
Goodness. I would love that. But one of the places I would love to investigate would be Stanley Hotel. I know there's been people out there that
out in
have
Colorado,
been to it.
sure.
Yes,
Yeah,
I know there's been
yeah.
people that have been to it, and unfortunately they stopped the paranormal stuff.
Right.
So again, that's another place I'll never be able to do. But
never say never.
You can rent a place, or you can rent a room.
You can sit in your room and do your own.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. You rent a room in the Stanley Hotel. I will let you borrow my weird geoport thing.
Nice.
Yes, it's all yours. It's all yours.
But yeah, I mean, I'll do an investigation anywhere. To be honest with you, unless it's roach infested, I'll do an investigation anywhere.
Yeah, that's a thing with you, isn't it?
Yeah. Can't do
well,
it.
I mean, you know what? Roaches are gross. Okay, so I'm kind of gonna.
There's just no point.
Can we throw in spiders and spider crickets too?
Yeah. Spider crickets creep me out.
What the hell is it with those things? I had them out in my wood pile. I thought I was gonna lose my mind.
Nope. They freak me out.
That is a big capital boatload of nope.
But I can accept them. Roaches, I can't accept. I just can't even accept it. Like they can survive a nuclear bomb. Like, what is the purpose?
So, folks, you got to tune in to Paranormal Brew. Like I said, we got you on all the socials.
Yeah.
And able to do that. And the next convention you're doing is?
The next convention is going to be Psychic in the Valley event in New York. I forget, Dunkirk,
yeah.
Dunkirk, New York. That's the Psychic in the Valley event. The Peaches, Paranormal Peaches will be there, and Paranormal Brew. And we're going to be investigating a location. We're staying at a haunted place at night. And we'll be
very
doing that.
cool. So follow your pages so that folks can see how that
so
comes
I also
out.
do, not just my show, but on my pages, I also do, once in a while, I'll do a live investigation where I like the people.
There's a tremendous amount of content that's all over the place and a lot of fun. You really got to tune into this stuff.
Much like you, a couple weeks ago, I did an on location. I've done a couple of on location interviews and then a ghost hunt following my interview for Wednesday, my Paranormal Brew. So it's like my show, but I'm doing this on location interview, and then we do an investigation afterwards. So it was cool.
And for all of you Rocky fans out there, and there's one of you, hi Mom. I've also been on the Paranormal Brew live cast when we were just down the street here.
Yes, we were at a location.
At a location right here in town.
Which was crazy that, because I wrote I was going to this.
And I'm like, dude, I can see that house from my porch.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God.
Well, so I basically crashed your investigation.
No, that was awesome because we got that.
We got some very cool EVP and it's on the thing. So definitely, if you can, go ahead and subscribe to all of the channels, do all of the things, and find everything you can to follow the delightful human known as Taryn Kerper on all of these things in Paranormal Brew. And hopefully we will be working together again very soon.
Yes, I would love
think
to.
So.
I want you to come on the brew.
I'm there.
All right, let's do it.
I'm there, no question.
I want you to come on.
All right, folks. So once again, follow her on Instagram, Facebook. You can go at Paranormal Brew, and there's all kinds of fun stuff there, from live investigations to tremendous interviews. Check out the Ouija guy. and you can see
Steve will be on in January.
Steve Gonsalves?
Yes.
Oh, very good. Yeah. You got to love a Gonsalves. It's on the air, So all kinds of great stuff. So once again, thank you so much for listening. And remember, stay kooky out there. Thank you for listening to Macabre World. You can find us on the web at www.darkerartsstudio.com.